Sherlock completed writing his announcement and checked it through once. He pondered over the background story and said to Brew, "How about this background story? Not bad, though it's a bit old-fashioned, it feels epic and suits the gamer's tastes." "The gaming quality is first, and the background story is second," Brew said. "Lord Sherlock, the creatures from Spectre College are here." Sherlock nodded as he published the edited background story and the update logs. He allowed Brew to let them in. In the entire dungeon, only Sherlock and Little Fairy were present. The gamers were offline, while Simba, Mufasa, and Moros were given 2 days of leave. The dungeon was very quiet. A large teleport portal appeared outside the dungeon core main hall. The magical rays formed a white magical door from which the first creature walked out. It was Professor Bacon. Professor Bacon had his skeleton frame. It had only been 3 days, but he looked exhausted. It was as though he had used up a lot of energy. "Lord Sherlock, we meet again." It has only been 3 days, but it felt like 3 centuries. Though he looked tired, he appeared friendly. Various creatures walked out from the teleport portal behind him, carrying various materials for constructing the teleport portal. The materials were wrapped with special coverings to prevent the mana from affecting the materials. 2 clichés were by the sides of the portal, transferring mana to sustain the teleport portal. Sherlock didn't share the same feelings as Professor Bacon. He had only clicked on the next turn in civilization. It felt like an hour ago that he had discussed the agreement with Professor Bacon. "Professor Bacon, it has been hard on you. You have slimmed down." Professor Bacon shook his skeleton frame as if he was laughing. "Lord Sherlock is jesting. Where are your dungeon servants?" Professor Bacon noticed a pile of goblins at one side, but seeing Sherlock's nonchalance, he felt that he had to ask about the goblins. After pondering, he mentioned it in passing. Though it was a new age, he was a superior devil who could sell thousands of goblins without batting an eyelid. Perhaps the devil wasn't in a good mood and killed all the goblins as entertainment. "Oh, they are going to the Spectre College to adventure and are excited." To prepare for the trip, they went to sleep. Sherlock smiled. Bacon couldn't understand the meaning of sleep, but Sherlock said, "It's trivial. Let's discuss the contract." "Yes, let's discuss the official matter." Bacon took out the agreement contract from his pocket. The contract had the Spectre College's seal. Only Sherlock's signature was missing. This wasn't the Underworld's contract, so Sherlock had to examine it carefully. The content indicated that one party was Spectre College and the other was Sherlock. Spectre College contracted Sherlock to solve the problem of the graduating clichés. Spectre College would pay 100 magic stones to Sherlock in exchange for him providing sufficient competence to help in the graduating research. It didn't matter whether the combatants perished, Spectre College wouldn't pay additional fees to Sherlock. The weekly payout would be for 100 goblins. After the contract was signed, Sherlock would be paid immediately for providing 100 goblins. Sherlock had the responsibility to provide sufficient quality competence to ensure Spectre College could carry out the graduating research. If Sherlock's goblins defeated all the Spectre warriors, they could obtain the equipment as loot, and if Sherlock's goblins perished, Spectre College would retrieve the equipment and return it to Sherlock. Spectre College had to follow the instance dungeon combat system and teach the graduating clichés the instance dungeon dialogue. The clichés were to be given basic acting training, and they had to place the Spectre warriors at designated locations, complete with scene and sound effects. Spectre College had the responsibility to provide teleport service to Eternal Kingdom and construct a teleport portal at Eternal Kingdom to facilitate the goblins in arriving at the Spectre College. Training ground. Sherlock had the responsibility. The remaining contents were small details and the penalties for breaking the contract. Sherlock examined the terms and conditions of the contract and ensured that there were no problems before signing the contract. The magical seal appeared on the contract, and it was completed. To be able to sign the contract with Lord Sherlock is a great honor. You have solved our huge problem. Bacon transferred 10,000 magic stones to Sherlock's magic stone card. Then he ordered the workers and the clichés to construct the teleport portal. Sherlock selected an empty spot for them to construct the teleport portal. The materials for constructing the portal were sent in batches to Eternal Kingdom. The construction required dimension magic, which was troublesome work. As such, the construction fee was high in addition to expensive materials. The installation and testing of the teleport portal required 2 days, but Sherlock wasn't required to provide food. The well-prepared workers had brought their own food and sleeping bags. After Bacon gave work assignments to the workers, he left using a teleport scroll. Sherlock didn't ask where he went since he was most likely going to attend to the poor female students. While the workers were busy, Sherlock went back to the dungeon core to browse the forum. In a short period of time, Sherlock's public announcement had garnered tens of thousands of replies. NIXP, is the non-existing intelligence organization okay? Metal Skin Dape, what is Eternal Kingdom training ground? Is that a new scene? Clean glazing in glazed mirror, it's the training ground of the gnome instructor. The beta gamers do their transactions and forming of teams over there. Morning Alcess, what are the updates? Requires 2 days offline. Beat that goblin, are the updates not indicated in the announcement? Then Mo Gatling, what is that? There are quite a lot of updates. Peasant, I'm in trouble, I can't play dungeon for 2 days, and I'm dying. Rainto, I forgot to go offline while cultivating the flowers. Will that be alright? Greater than less than? J3 Wind Barrier, gosh, those 2 above must be beta gamers. Rainto must be the life connoisseur gamer who cultivates flowers. Heard that flowers were kept alive. Fifth Ocean, isn't the background story lacking in sincerity? It's too little, less than 1,000 words. Will there be an official novel? White Blue Sky, can I apply for beta tester status? At administrator shall I? Deranged Heart, the person above, don't waste your efforts. The administrator will only publish announcements. He will never reply to gamers. Zeus Creator, thumbs down for the administrator. Asterisk. Early night rain is the private land in the game, not a grave. 2 square meters. Being a good girl, there is no need to restrict housing, and there should be benefits. This game isn't entertaining since it doesn't allow gamers to build a beautiful villa. Believe in sacred light. Is anybody ridiculing Renlader? Xelnigger, the above commenter on the private land. You have underestimated the game's freedom. The beta gamers have constructed a huge house. A gamer has 2 square meters, so there are 200 meters altogether. This is called gamer's intelligence. Dawn's boyfriend, what? What kind of a game is that? I would like to see, are there pictures? Are there Minecraft fellows? Do you need a civil engineering profession? Perhaps there is a guild later on. Oh my god, I want to live in a villa. Icy fire, gosh, the previous commenter's question is difficult. Too lazy to remember names, I want to know when the open beta is. It has been closed beta for a month. It's time for open beta. Resting rapid rain, I plead for the open beta like the previous commenter. Those who agree, support me. Sherlock looked at the replies and asked Brew, those beta gamers accumulated their private land to build a house. Didn't Lord Sherlock know? They created a building. You can take a look, it's pretty neat. Sherlock walked out of the dungeon core main hall and walked in the direction of the goblins' private lands. When Sherlock was planning the excavation of Eternal Kingdom, he used the dungeon core as the origin. In the southern direction, the regional blocks were connected to form a tunnel. In the direction opposite the dungeon core main hall, there was a 200-meter wide tunnel that was used as a central tunnel. The 200-meter tunnel looked more like a plaza since the length was less than 100 meters. Though the gamers worked day and night over the course of a month, excavating, carrying bricks, and leveling ground and walls, Sherlock's priority was to create functional rooms or regional blocks. For example, food storage, a goods warehouse, seed beds, a carpenter workshop, training grounds, and a gamer's residential area. The space behind the dungeon core main hall could be developed, and there was a tunnel leading to the outside world. Developing a dungeon wasn't merely about excavation. Sherlock's plan wasn't like that. His goal was to become the greatest devil king of all time and construct the grandest dungeon. He had to construct an underworld focal point that could sustain millions of creatures, massive wealth, and a notable reputation. Proper dungeon planning was crucial to his goal. Sherlock's original plan for the gamer's residential area was to let them build a pigeon-type house that could hold a bed and a private storage box. That would suffice. What else would the gamers want? Combining the private lands in order to build a large mansion? Were they expecting to decorate the mansion with furniture, grand doors, independent gardens, balconies, and a swimming pool? I can understand Lord Sherlock's concern. If we don't restrict the gamers' activities, they will construct illegal buildings and affect the future development of the dungeon, Bruce said as Sherlock walked to the residential area. These gamers are able to accept the harsh environment and benefits. Their only desire is to have as large a house as possible with furniture, grand doors, independent gardens, balconies, and swimming pools. Why don't we accede to their desires and let them combine the lands and construct their dream home or even high-rise buildings? Lord Sherlock won't have any losses, and it will satisfy their needs. You're right, but they have gone too far this time. Sherlock had arrived at the residential area. When he saw the house, he couldn't describe how he felt. Sherlock's original planned residential area had wide paths surrounding the 200 square meters of space. Walls were constructed at the perimeter of the empty space, and within the walls, there were tens of goblins who were lying all over the place and sleeping peacefully. They didn't react to Sherlock's presence. Sherlock wasn't unhappy with the sleeping goblins or the surrounding walls. He was unhappy with the construction diagram drawn on the walls using stones. On the construction diagram was a 3D building with many 2D diagrams that were professionally drafted. Even the length was denoted on every line. There was a thickened line on the wall with the words heavy-duty wall. The diagram depicted a single-story building that occupied the 200 square meters. The top part of the building was like the shape, that was inverted. The protruded floors were designed to integrate into the sides of the wall. The space above the 10-meter pathway that was designated by Sherlock was occupied by the building. There was a basement below the building that had the same shape. The protrusion was as high as the first story. One of them was inverted and joined with the other at the protrusions. The protrusions became the connectors. The final shape looked like a standing dumbbell. On the top part of the plan was the word dream, while the bottom was filled with gamers' signatures carved with stone. There was a pile of wall body at the perimeter. Chisels, hammers without handles, pickaxes, small tools that had spider silk twirled around stones, various kinds of rocks, grassroots items, or stones. And all sorts of tools were placed neatly by the side. The 100 beta gamers were serious. There are civil engineering students in this batch of gamers, and they are good. The diagrams are professional. Brew didn't know why he said that. Why are the chisels and hammers used in missions placed here? Sherlock frowned and asked. Sherlock remembered that the chisels and the hammers were loaned out during missions. After completing the missions, the gamers were to return the tools. The gamers not only used the tools to complete missions, but they also used them to construct their own houses. I'll check the server statistics and check historical records. Brew was puzzled and started checking. 10 seconds later, Brew said, after gamers accepted their missions, they stored them and used the mission tools to construct their house. TSK, these horrible standing apes took advantage of loopholes. Brew seemed to be praising the gamers. Sherlock, on the other hand, wanted them to be more manageable. He didn't want them taking advantage of loopholes. He didn't want them to build nice houses. Instead, developing Eternal Kingdom should be their first priority. Was the pigeon-type housing not sufficient? Sherlock thought for a while and felt he needed to amend the mission mechanics. He said to Brew, retrieve all the chisels, pickaxes, and hammers. Leave the tools of the gamers alone. Cancel all the current missions and update them with an additional time restriction. Missions not completed within the time limit will have the rewards halved. Missions that take more than 2 times the time limit will have a reputation points penalty. Those who cancel their construction missions will have a reputation points penalty. If we implement the changes, won't it increase the burden on the gamers? Lord Sherlock has to empathize with their desire to build their homes, Bruce said with concern after some pondering. I haven't finished yet. We'll add a tool rental service, with a week as the rental period. The gamers can rent the tools from Simba by using their reputation points and coins. Each gamer is limited to a set of tools, Sherlock said. In this way, the gamers won't make use of my valuable resources to build their house while slacking on their assigned missions. I'm a reasonable devil. If they wish to build their homes, they have to develop the dungeon first. After earning reputation points and coins, they can use them to rent the tools for their own construction. This forms a positive feedback loop. Lord Sherlock, what about the combining of private lands by the gamers? Should we enforce new rules? Brew asked. It's not necessary. Since they like to build large houses, let them be. Buildings with protrusions are not allowed as they are ugly. High-rise buildings and basements are not allowed. If they really want to have them, charge them accordingly. The size and shape of the buildings have to stay within the restricted perimeter. We will limit buildings to 3 levels above and below the ground. I'll publish everything in an addendum. Sherlock waved at the wall with the diagrams and added the following words to it: work hard. The words work hard appeared next to dream. Looking at the words, Sherlock sighed. Of course, if they really want to build private villas, once the dungeon is fully developed, they can do so with reputation points and coins. They can build dumbbell-shaped houses or even beetleman-shaped houses. I have no qualms about that as long as they can afford them. I'm so generous, just, and compassionate. I'm the shame of the devils. Sherlock had to think carefully about the update contents, amendments of construction missions, and details of private lands. Sherlock had experienced how the gamers took advantage of a loophole. If any of his measures weren't well thought out, the gamers would do something astonishing. Just like the living quarters that he had just seen. If the gamer hadn't mentioned combining land in order to build a house on the discussion forum and made him take a look, the whole outline of the house would have been built within 10 days. The gamers would have used the tools for developing the dungeon to build their house. Sherlock spent some time deliberating before announcing the addendum. 1. Amended the private land construction issue. Gamers are temporarily allowed to build level 2 and 3 above and below the ground. For each level, each gamer is allowed 2 square meters at the cost of 1 silver coin. In the future, more land will be released for construction with the corresponding increment in prices. 2. Amended the daily construction mission conditions. Added services of weekly rental of tools through Simba. To prevent the gamers from taking advantage of loopholes, Sherlock examined the addendum carefully before publishing it. The gamers were discussing the new version, Spectre Legion, and complaining about how the offline maintenance took 2 days. After Sherlock published new updates, the gamers commented with excitement. Landlord Malili, what's this? The gamers discovered a bug, obtaining an additional tool by stalling a mission. Does the tool cause damage? Third General Euro King Miracle, gosh, I just learned that the beta gamers created a building together, and now the game officials are restricting it. Cloud Hopping Fairy, Forum Administrator. Egg Garden, Administrator, buck up. Cloud Gather Snow Pile, Administrator, buck up. Seafood Ice Shaver, cut the repetition. The single quote. On seeing most of the gamers saying, Administrator, buck up, Sherlock was relieved. He was pleased by this comment. Sherlock resumed his official work after glancing at the workers constructing the portal. Civilization 6, starting. Next turn, begin. Lord Sherlock, Lord Sherlock. When Bruce's voice sounded in Sherlock's mind, he panicked and looked at Civilization 6's information indicator that showed Sage Hero Ganty dropping a nuclear bomb on him. Ganty's nuclear bomb again? He talked about peace in the diplomatic dialogue every time. Was that a typographical error? Sherlock was feeling vexed when Bruce said, Lord Sherlock, the workers have finished their work. The workers' leader is waiting for you outside the dungeon core main hall. That fast? 2 days have passed? Sherlock was shocked and looked at the next turn button at the bottom right corner of the screen as he shook his head. Sherlock saved his game and shut it down. A cloaked Lick with an emotionless skeleton face waited outside the dungeon core main hall. Sherlock walked out of the hall, and the Lick bowed. Lord Sherlock, according to the contract, we have completed the teleport portal to Winterfell. We have also made adjustments based on your requirement. There are 2 teleport modes. The first one is using Winterfell as an interchange to arrive at the Spectre College. The other one is a direct teleport to Winterfell. Lord Sherlock, I'll show you. Sherlock thanked the Lick and followed him to the 7-meter tall portal, which was tall enough for a giant. Sherlock could also enter the portal comfortably. It was a bit too big for the goblins. With the 3-meter width, 10 goblins could enter at the same time. The teleport portal foundation was situated in a newly excavated space, which would become the teleport portal reception hall. The ambitious Sherlock wouldn't be satisfied with a single teleport portal, though there was only one in the reception hall. There were no surrounding walls or ornaments, but it was temporary. A month ago, Sherlock had just bought the dungeon. Even the dungeon core was abandoned. He used a lot of effort to revive the core. Who would have expected him to have excavated that much space and constructed that many buildings within a month? As a devil, he had to have dreams. To choose the portal mode, he had to change the direction of mana. Hence, he didn't have to worry about the gamers changing the portal mode, going to Winterfell, and creating trouble. Sherlock set the portal mode and transferred his mana to activate the teleport portal. He walked through the portal that was covered with white-color magical light and arrived at the Winterfell teleport portal reception hall. There was peace and serenity, and there were no foul-speaking receptionist talks. Sherlock was in a 100-square-meter room with nice decorations. Besides the portal, there were a few small tables, comfortable chairs, and a rack with a newspaper and magazines. Sherlock noticed a sexy devil with goat horns and a long, slender tail on a magazine cover. The tail was placed in front and covered the crotch area. And the top 2 sensuous points were covered by a slanted newspaper. TSK. Sherlock was annoyed and extended his hand towards the newspaper. Lord Sherlock, this teleport portal is directly connected to. The previous Lick walked out from the portal, and his skeleton head turned to the rack that was without a newspaper. He said to Sherlock, the Winterfell VIP room. Lord Sherlock helped to solve our major problem. This is a small gift from our college. This isn't cheap. I'm very grateful. Sherlock expressed his gratitude and put back the newspaper that had the words, Son of the Grand Duke, Alexandria, will be visiting Winterfell. The newspaper covered the alluring magazine cover. Lord Sherlock, would you like to visit Spectre College? The Lick asked, turning his head back with an expressionless skeleton face. It's not necessary. I'm busy with my dungeon, and I visited the college a few years back. Sherlock waved his hand as he replied. Since Sherlock wasn't going, the Lick kept quiet. Since the Lichés and workers had completed their work, they wouldn't be staying in Eternal Kingdom. They weren't worried about Professor Bacon, and one of the Lichés said Professor Bacon would return on his own. Sherlock bade farewell to the workers and sent them off. He then let Brew adjust the portal mode. Then Brew said, Lord Sherlock. Mufasa, Simba, and Moros are back. Sherlock allowed them to enter. The teleport portal glimmered with ripples of mana, and two chatting and smiling blackened dwarves walked out with many bags. Moros was behind them, and he was smiling merrily. The scars on his face weren't that obvious. The three of them bowed to Sherlock and returned to their rooms to pack up before starting work. Mufasa noticed the pile of corpse-like goblins in a corner. As he was about to say something, Simba dragged him off as he said, seems like the Devil Lord could no longer stand the goblins. I lost my sleep without the goblins chattering beside me. Simba's voice faded into the distance. Lord Sherlock, there's 10 more minutes before we resume service. Those gamers are coming back. I'm looking forward to seeing their reaction on entering the instance dungeon, Brew said with anticipation. Sherlock nodded and discussed the issues of the new version with Brew. Sherlock looked forward to the gamers' return, as well as their attempts to conquer the instance dungeon. It implied his magic stones would increase continuously. Once 100 gamers perished, he would obtain another 10,000 magic stones. If the gamers were strong enough to survive, they would obtain good equipment. This would satisfy their desire to improve their equipment and their desire for new ways to play the game. It would also save them a huge sum of money on improving equipment. They could also exchange the equipment for a large sum of coins. With the continuous inflow of magic stones, it wouldn't be long before he made $1 billion. In the contract, Sherlock had to ensure the combatants were qualified. If the combatants were too weak and there were massive casualties, then he would be suspected of reaping profits from their deaths. Sherlock felt that it wasn't easy to be a goblin dealer these days. It was indeed a period of mass poverty. Sherlock felt that it was harder and harder to make money, and he missed the chattering gamers. Sherlock revealed a sinister grin when Arthur, one of the goblins placed in the corner, opened his eyes. Welcome back, citizens of Eternal Kingdom. A black cauldron was hung above a diamond-seamed stove with magical flames. The underground water in the cauldron emitted hot air, but it was still some time from boiling. Mufasa dragged pieces of spider meat to the middle of the carpenter workshop and used the underground water obtained from the sides to clean the meat. His cousin, Simba, was smoking a piece of red-hot diamond seam. The red smoke rings came out from his beard and dispersed into the air. He looked at Mufasa and said, without those noisy goblins, the world is perfect. Aren't those goblins coming back? They are quite diligent, and Lord Sherlock likes them. Mufasa dragged the spider meat into the cauldron, and the meat was stained with dust. Mufasa was aware, but he wasn't bothered since clay would be put on the meat anyway. Simba puffed out the smoke rings as he said, do you know what day it was when we were given the 2 days leave? What day was it? Payday. A bunch of capable but noisy, insolent, greedy goblins who did what pleased them. Go figure it out. Simba puffed out a ring of smoke and kept quiet. Mufasa became frightened the more he thought about it. It was his first time working in a dungeon, and he heard Simba say that Eternal Kingdom wasn't the same as other dungeons. The wounded acted like they were intact, the goblins babbled nonsense, and the Devil Lord was rich and inhumane. Summoning goblins was like eating clay dumplings. He could even have a deep relationship with the spirit world, since he could claim the goblins' souls. The dungeon lord, who had a mysterious background, was a powerful devil, and the dungeon only used worthless metal coins that were common in the surface world. Mufasa didn't have much work experience, and had only been to a few dungeons, but he knew Eternal Kingdom was different from the rest. All of it originated from the dungeon lord, who sat behind the table in the dungeon core main hall, thinking of how to inflict pain and suffering on the world Sherlock. When the weak were faced with the strong, the weak would be in awe of the strong. Mufasa was in awe of the rich and powerful dungeon lord Sherlock. Though Sherlock was young, a devil's appearance could be deceiving. Who would know the real Sherlock? He could be a devil who was tens of thousands of years old. Lord Sherlock is a cruel, cold-blooded, unscrupulous devil lord with a bright future. As long as we work hard for Lord Sherlock, talk less and do more unlike the chattering goblins once Eternal Kingdom is fully developed, we can become famous blackened dwarves. Perhaps in a few months, I will have a group of students calling me teacher. Simba smiled and said with nostalgia, to be honest, after being bothered by the chattering goblins for a month, I'm not used to the sudden silence. Every day, someone would ask me about hidden missions and hidden equipment. Now, there's no one asking, I'm. Before Simba finished talking, a green figure, whose head had green words above it, walked unsteadily over and said, Blacksmith. Is there a hidden mission? Get lost. Notweer Inkpants opened his eyes in the living quarters and sat up slowly. Congratulations, Notweer Inkpants. Close combat, short sword and shield weapon level was increased to level 2. You are qualified with your current reputation points. Please proceed to the dungeon core main holders mission panel to obtain the latest instance dungeon guided mission. Notweer Inkpants was taken aback. He moved his fingers and opened the small bag at his chest to take a look at the shiny bronze coins and a few silver coins. He heaved a sigh of relief. More goblins woke up, and their reactions were similar to Notweer Inkpants. What? Why are you putting your feet on my crotch? Sylvanas pushed Peasant's feet away violently and looked at her side. Brother Arthur, are you online? Where are you? Let's form a team and talk about exploring the instance dungeon. As Sylvana's voice faded, hoarse voices started shouting. Selling silver, sword on sale. +3 sword, those who want to join the skills training but don't have money, come over. D***MN, what a comedy. Are you making a comedy or doing business? Forming expedition, those who want to increase your weapon level, look over here. Gosh, my short bow is at level 2. Anyone with level 2 and above. Let's form an expedition to the instance dungeon. We'll sell the loot for a fortune. Form your own expedition, we're not taking archers. How do I increase my weapon level? Why am I at level 1? What, our tools were taken away? They remedied the bug that fast? The new updates indicated that we have to pay for multiple stories and basements. What's going to happen to our dreams? Notweir Impants shook his head. The other gamers were still hollering while he felt hungry and weak. Because his sensation of pain was nullified, he didn't feel stomach pain. The wall that had the word dream was filled with diagrams. However, they weren't important, as there were additional words, work hard. Was this an Easter egg? No, this was a prank by the game producers. *it, the dog planners. Notweir Impants shouted out his first online words. Arthur woke up and moved his body. He used all his effort to move the goblins on top of him. Then he discovered that his right arm was broken. Arthur squirmed out with difficulty from the goblin pile. During this period, goblins gradually woke up. He landed on the ground with a loud thud. He discovered that the goblins at the bottom were crushed to death. Without breath, the gamers would have to wait for revival after going online. What was this about? Perhaps the gamers didn't go offline in time, resulting in lost data. Arthur stood up and examined his distorted arm and other parts of his body. After ensuring there were no other injuries, he was dumbstruck. Weapon level 3 only. Arthur shook his head and felt weak all over. He sat down and took out the spider meat rolls from his backpack. As he chewed on his food, the goblins behind him started to move. My head's broken, and it's bleeding. Why is my hand not moving? Gosh, why is my leg broken? Oh, and my money's gone. Why is my sword broken? Oh no, I should have gone offline in time. Rainta ran to the flower bed in a panic and tripped over the path that was being paved. She quickly got up and kept running. Arthur lifted his head to observe, but he kept quiet. He heard faint noises from the living quarters. He finished his food quickly and wiped his mouth before he made his way to the mission panel that was in front of the dungeon core main hall. More and more gamers moved towards the mission panel. A greenstone slab was stacked on top of some soil and stones, making it into a makeshift platform. The greenstone slab was covered in dense words. A group of goblins surrounded the greenstone slab and were discussing its contents. The greenstone slab had the following words. This is from the Eternal Kingdom Non-Existing Intelligence Organization's Critical Intelligence. The evil void leader occupied Spectre College, which was filled with countless liches and spectres. They were building up their strength in a bid to attack Eternal Kingdom and the beautiful Underworld. Devil Lord Sherlock's entrustment, Eternal Kingdom's warriors, we need you to protect our homeland. The Underworld requires your help. Do not be afraid of death and sacrifice. Take up your weapons and fight. Daily exploration of Spectre College, Training Grounds. Mission description, Eternal Kingdom requires you to go to Spectre College, Training Grounds and obtain intelligence and diminish the Spectre Legion's power. Kill sufficient Spectres, 0/10. Mission reward, 100 reputation points, 50 bronze coins. Mission hints, the Spectre College, Training Grounds instance dungeon is for a maximum team of 5 gamers. After selecting your members, proceed to the designated teleport portal main hall beside the seedbed. Wait within the 1-meter radius of the portal. When the teleport portal is activated by mana, you may enter. Each activation lasts for 20 seconds. Instance dungeon requirement, reputation level 2 and above, 30,000, close combat, long range, weapon level 2 and above. The contents on the green slab stone were very detailed. After the gamers finished reading the contents, they forgot all about the version updates that destroyed their Dumbbell Villa dream. Those with weapon level 2, join us. Archers are declined. Those with +3 equipment, join us. Make haste. First expedition team, move out. Spider hunters, join us. Those who want materials and equipment improvement, join us. We'll leave once a team of 4 is formed. Loot distribution is by rolling dice. The group of gamers shouted at the top of their lungs, and the entrance of the dungeon core main hall was rowdy like a Sunday market. Pom, pom, pom. Simba, who was improving the gamers' equipment, heard the loud shouting from the main hall. The green veins on his forehead pulsated, and he was getting very impatient. Uncle Blacksmith, help me have a successful equipment improvement, otherwise, I'll lie down in front of your shop. Your chest armor is gone. No. Peasant grabbed his head in despair and wailed, kneeling down as he witnessed Simba hammer out a huge hole in his breastplate and throw it mercilessly into the recycling furnace. The gamers who were queuing up for equipment improvement witnessed Peasant's predicament, as well as 2 other gamers who were wailing in despair. They walked off silently. It wasn't a good day for equipment improvement. Half of the gamers were below combat level 2. When they realized that they were unable to enter the instance dungeon, they quickly formed teams to hunt for spiders. The spiders were facing another bloodbath. When these gamers flooded the spider's lair, the remaining gamers formed teams of 5. Some gamers had formed their teams and were preparing for their expedition to Spectre College. 5 goblins sat in a circle close to the teleport portal. They were Arthur, Notweir Impants, Sylvanas, Burning Kistair, and Peasant. While other gamers were still forming teams, they had started to discuss their combat tactics. Like this, follow according to how we fought the skeleton soldiers of the plot boss. Does everyone understand? Notweir Impant said as he used the tip of his sword to draw up the combat plan. Sylvanas and Peasant hesitated and nodded. Arthur didn't respond, while Burning Kistair grabbed his arm and asked, wait, I don't understand. I understand the left and right flanking followed by a sneak attack at the back. But what is this initial short bell volley about? What? Is there a problem? Before engaging the monsters at close range, we fire from a distance. Isn't this common knowledge in an online game? Sylvanas frowned and looked at burning Kister as she asked, are you worried about my archery skill and harming allies? My long-range weapon level is 2. No, I'm not worried that you will harm allies. Before engagement, we will be hiding behind. No matter how good you aren't able to shoot behind your head unless you're Gov, burning Kister said as he spread out his hands. I mean, think about the skeleton soldiers. Aren't they made of bones? Yes, what about it? Sylvanas looked puzzledly at burning Kister. You're shooting at a skeleton, where are you going to shoot? Burning Kister said, and the other gamers understood. Notwearingpant slammed down his palm and said, D***men, I forgot about this problem. I'm playing this game like previous online games. We'll throw stones at the skeletons. The accuracy is better anyway. We agreed that I would use my short bow to engage the monsters first. Why are you changing the plan? Don't you trust me? Sylvanas objected. Even if they are skeletons, I can kill them with a shot to their skull. Perhaps I can kill all of them without you fighting. Do you believe that? The skeleton soldiers are all bones without any flesh for the arrow to hit. If you shoot an arrow through a soldier's ribs and hit the spine of another soldier behind, thus killing 2 soldiers, wouldn't we be wasting our talents? Use the stones. It's not only more accurate but will save on arrows, Peasant suggested. Yes, you shot Arthur's skull last time. Have you forgotten? Notwearingpant said. I said it was an accident. Brother Arthur didn't say anything. Why are you always mentioning that? If I don't use my short bow, what's the use of owning one? Sylvanas stood up impatiently and screamed at Notwearingpants. A few gamers looked in their direction. Use stones, Arthur, who was sitting cross-legged, said. Oh, I agree with Brother Arthur. The hot-tempered Sylvanas sat down obediently. If there are no other issues, we'll move out, Arthur said as he slapped his thigh and stood up. Dew with bright reflections dripped from mellow leaves onto the damp soil. Dense mist shrouded the grey forest, and scattered light dispersed in the forest. Direwolves wandered in the forest, while huge spiders spun their transparent webs among the trees. The forest was like a dangerous labyrinth dreamscape. In the sky, a wyvern shrieked as it flew close to the trees. Within the reflection of its dark eyes, a few beetlemans were running towards a huge fortress on a forest path. The wyvern extended its wings, and its shadow swept across the surface, covering the beetlemans in the huge fortress. After passing by the fortress, the wyvern dove vertically down along the walls. When it reached a certain height, the wyvern adjusted its body and resumed flying forward. The wyvern disappeared from view, leaving a luminous plant and a dark underground tunnel in sight. In the tunnel, various beetlemans, Hades horses, and enormous giants were busy traversing. Behind the wyvern, a semicircle magical curtain engulfed a huge cave that could hold a forest and a fortress. The magical curtain blocked all light rays and shimmered with a magical glow. After going through the magic curtain and following the forested path was the fortress. In a building on the side of the fortress, clichés were manipulating skeleton soldiers, lifting various items, using mana to raise bone walls, and creating flames using magical effects. A large music box made of bones was playing sinister music. This was originally the preparation hall for the Spectre College graduating training grounds. It was now disguised as an ancient battlefield by various props, bone walls, and special effects illusions. With the sinister music, the preparation hall had become a frightening entrance to the stronghold. A square door made from rocks was placed in the main hall. White magic rays filled the entire square door. This was the entrance to the graduating training grounds. That teleport portal was connected to 150 sealed graduating training grounds. On the side was a dark-robed Lick with his skeleton palm pressed on the stone teleport portal. There were a form and a feather pen floating by his side. There is no problem with training ground Mo. 150. Prepare to proceed. The floating feather pen started writing furiously on the form. Noises were heard in a corridor leading to the main hall, and the group of clichés in student cloaks was led by a tired-looking Lick whose body was emitting dark smoke. Professor Bacon. The Lick who was checking the training ground entrance walked forward and bowed to Bacon respectfully. Brainiac, haven't you graduated? Didn't you report for work at the Eternal Fire Dungeon? Bacon asked in astonishment. The headmaster recommended me to Eternal Fire Dungeon to gain exposure. With experience in a huge dungeon, coming back for a professorship is much easier. But I prefer staying in a college and working as a teaching assistant. To obtain a professorship requires a long time. Also, dungeon work isn't suitable for me as it consists of punching the time card daily, getting paid at the start of the month, and carrying the favor of superiors. There is no research work. Instead, it's summoning specters for the dungeon lord or repairing magical items. That's not what I want. I want to learn new knowledge and mana skills and experience new things. Brainiac was embarrassed and said to Bacon, Professor Bacon, don't call me Brainiac. The other students were just teasing me. The student clichés that were behind Professor Bacon started whispering to each other. Is he Brainiac, the one with the highest score in 1,000 years? I heard his results were legendary. 100 years of curriculum, and he only used 50 years to complete it all. Impossible. 50 years to graduate? And he was the top student in school. He was a genius since young. He's a rare genius of Spectre College. The whisperings became louder, and Bacon gave a dry cough. The students kept quiet and stared wide-eyed at Brainiac. Since you decided, work hard. You are the brightest student that I have taught, and I have high expectations for you. Bacon patted Brainiac's shoulder and looked at the decorated main hall behind him. Are all this arranged by you? Not bad. Professor, I don't understand why our graduating research has such strange decorations and sinister music. When the students are taking the examination, isn't it better to have silence for better focus? Brainiac asked, puzzled. The explanation is quite complex. This is the request of the Devil Lord, who helped us solve the graduating research problem. He isn't a simple Devil Lord, since he is able to sacrifice a few tens of thousands of goblins. Such a powerful devil like him having a special craving is understandable. Restrain your curiosity in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Professor Bacon reminded him. I understand, Professor Bacon, Brainiac replied, but he was still full of curiosity. Students, hurry through the portal and prepare yourselves in the training grounds. Follow the dialogue schedule given to you and take note of the items in these 2 days' training. They are all graded, so take note. Professor Bacon shouted and guided the students to the rooms so that they could use the designated teleport portals to travel to the training grounds. Professor, the combatants from Eternal Kingdom are here, Alec came from the other side of the corridor and said. A teleport portal was placed in the middle of a small dark room. The sides of the room were covered with bone walls, and there were green flames at the side. Mysterious crimson diagrams were painted on the walls, and sinister music filled the room. A magical brilliance lit up the teleport portal. A goblin walked out from the teleport portal, followed by the second and third 5 goblins came out before the magical light of the portal faded. The 5 goblins were equipped with armor and weapons. Arthur had a quality breastplate, plate leggings, and he wielded a black short sword and a shield with a solemn face. The other goblins didn't have quality equipment compared to his. Notwearing pants and peasant used standard armor and weapons. Burning Kister wielded a quality dagger, while Sylvanas wore a helmet and grasped the short bow tightly. She was placed at the back. A short sword and shield were tied to her back using grass rope. The 5 goblins weren't armed to the teeth, but they were well equipped. After they exited the portal, they came to a room outside the training grounds. A black-robed Lick was sitting in front of an exquisite table. On a platform decorated with a skeleton motif was a crystal ball that was showing images of 5 goblins wandering around in the training grounds. The black-robed Lick frowned and looked at the Lick holding a cup of bloody chrysanthemum and asked, Professor Bacon, what are those words? I haven't seen them before. Bacon sipped the chrysanthemum tea, and the crimson tea dripped from his jaw to the floor. His bones emitted hot air as he said, Oh, those are the special words used in the Eternal Kingdom. I haven't seen them either. Perhaps it's a native language of Lord Sherlock, and used for assigning work. I thought you had seen it before. Even Brainiac hasn't seen such language. Lord Sherlock, is that the devil who signed the agreement with our college to undertake the graduating research? Brainiac asked. That's correct. The most evil, cunning, and cruel devil lord, Professor Bacon smiled and said. Though his dungeon isn't fully developed, he has extraordinary talent in training the goblins. I have good foresight, and I know that he will achieve extraordinary feats, Bacon said to Brainiac. I didn't know that Professor Bacon looked highly on the devil lord. The goblins look like they have undergone training. What are they doing? Brainiac straightened his body and looked carefully at the crystal ball. In the crystal ball, the 5 goblins destroyed all the items, including cans and wooden boxes. 2 goblins, Notwearing pants and peasant, placed the wooden planks into their backpacks. Bacon was taken aback. He turned around as green flames lit up in his eye sockets. He extended his skeletal hand and placed it upon the crystal ball. With the transfer of mana from his hand, sounds emitted from the crystal ball. Why are you carrying them? There's more equipment for us to carry, Sylvanas asked. Our swords and hammers don't have wooden handles. We don't even have wooden boxes. What does that mean? Wood is a scarce resource. There are that many wooden crates here. We could exchange them for coins with shall I? Notwearing pants said. Is there a description on the wooden plank? Burning Kister asked. No description. It needs to be appraised, peasant said. Arthur was speechless. When Bacon's hand left the crystal ball, the chatting voices of the goblins faded. These goblins intend to sell the wooden planks to their dungeon lord. The evil, cunning, and cruel devil lord. Finished. These goblins are doomed. Bacon shook his head and muttered to himself. Wait, Professor Bacon, I feel this is not the crux of the problem, Brainiac frowned and said. These goblins feel that they can return. If they were orcs or gnomes, I could understand, but the goblins, do they think they can return? Professor Bacon scoffed and said, Brainiac, you can't talk like this. We're doing illegal graduating research and not operating a meat grinder. They aren't here as cannon fodder. They are here to contribute to spiritual magic research. We paid them, and they were recruited from the Merchant Alliance organization. It's a risky job. You have more to learn. Times have changed. We're a college, not a slaughterhouse. You can't just think about research. Tact is something you have to master. Brainiac nodded solemnly. I understand, Professor Bacon. Are these goblins that capable? They look confident. They are stronger than normal goblins in terms of willpower, Professor Bacon recalled when he disguised himself as B.A. Menorth, conning that dramatic performance. The goblins stabbed at him wildly. They even stabbed their own comrades. They were fearless and had no sensation of pain. Let me see how to allocate the goblins to the graduating students. I'll start with the lowest ranking students. Brainiac opened up a thick book. A skull picture was affixed at the top left corner of every page, along with the name, date of entry, learning subjects, and training instructors. I'll start with this one. Brainiac pulled up another crystal ball and shouted into it. Examination candidate no. 98,562. Prepare to enter the training grounds. The examination is about to commence. A 4-story tower stood in the middle of a circular cave. The tunnel that connected the cave with the outside world was sealed by mana. The only way in and out was a teleport portal at the top of the tower. At the top of the tower, a student Lick wearing a Spectre College uniform opened his hands while he used mana to vibrate his cloak. A black magical aura engulfed his body. Puny mortals, you can't stop us. The world belongs to the Void Legion. The vibrating cloak had a small disc with the number 98,562 on it. After he finished the sentence, the magical aura disappeared. He took out a piece of paper from his cloak and scratched his skull as he said, I left out a word, you can't stop us. The world will belong to the Void Legion. Who is Void Legion? As he was uttering the dialogue, the teleport portal behind him rippled, and a lick with the number 78,566 walked out. The two clichés looked stunned at each other. Senior, you haven't graduated? Nope, I've waited for 9 years. My instructor said I had to wait 3 years, then 3 years, and then another 3 years. How many 3 years do I have to wait? The lick that just walked out said loudly, I spent 1,000 magic stones to bribe the instructor, and I became the first one to take the exam. What, 1,000 magic stones? Why did I pay 3,000 magic stones? The other lick asked in agitation. Because this is the first year you are taking the examination, silly. As they were chatting, the voice of Brainiac came from the high tower. No, 98,562 and 78,566, stop chatting and start preparing. Summon your Spectre Warriors, the examination is starting. They activated their man and controlled their Spectre Warriors. Each had 10 warriors, 9 were ordinary Spectre Warriors, while the last one was an elite Spectre Warrior. The 20 Spectre Warriors occupied the high tower. These Spectre Warriors were arranged to come in by specialized personnel before the clichés arrived. The two clichés deployed their Spectre Warriors and waited obediently on the 4th floor rooftop. They knew that there were many professors observing them. They had to control their Spectre Warriors to fight with the 5 combatants. They would be graded on how they controlled the Spectre Warriors in combat, their familiarity in control, and the performance of the Spectre Warriors. Clichés who passed would be able to graduate. Before the combat exam, there were other subjects. They had to pass them to qualify for the combat examination. The two clichés waited for 10, 15, 20 minutes, but nobody entered the training ground. Where are the combatants? 98,562 gazed at the empty space below the tower and asked in bewilderment. Is that a thief, or robber? Brainiac was furious as he pointed at the images in the crystal ball. In the crystal ball, there were more than 5 goblins, 20 to be exact. They were smashing the containers and wooden boxes in a frenzy. These goblins looked for all the things they could find to transport back to Eternal Kingdom. The items included wooden planks, earthen jars, metal parts, wooden wheels, and bones knocked down from the walls. Some goblins even used chisels and hammers to extract the stone flooring, but they tried in vain. As the goblins were busy transporting these props meant for creating the battlefield atmosphere, nobody walked through the corridors to teleport over to the training grounds. Don't worry, there's a term in the contract. Let me see, Professor Bacon said as he took out a copy of the agreement and found the terms. Party B's combatants may exhibit abnormal behavior, such as taking things away. Party A should restrict the combatants' movement and control their route. Do not put any expensive items in their vicinity. If Party A suffers any losses, Party B will not be held responsible. Party A was Spectre College, and Party B was Lord Sherlock. There are such terms in the contract. Is it Lord Sherlock's intention to let his goblins steal from us? Brainiac took the contract and examined it carefully. Lord Sherlock wouldn't resort to such means. He isn't in need of money, Bacon said confidently. It could be the goblins' tendency, since they have low intelligence. They might be different from the normal creatures. It's normal for them to do such stuff. Since the items aren't expensive, let them be. The most important matter is to let the clichés graduate. I borrowed these props from the Drama Society, and they are performing the Armageddon War next week using the same props. They are already destroyed. Even if we retrieve them, they can't be used. Forget it. I'll talk to the Drama Society. Why did you place that many props? Magical effects are sufficient. I hope they finish their transportation fast. Bacon looked at the busy goblins in the crystal ball and sighed. Even if there were lots of props, they would complete the moving somehow. The gamers removed all the props from the instance dungeon entrance main hall. They ensured that the flooring couldn't be removed before they gathered together. In Bacon and Brainiac's crystal ball, some of these gamers looked like they were sleeping. Some were sitting dazed on the ground, while a few wandered around, looking. None of the goblins walked into the teleport portal of the training grounds. Bacon was getting impatient. What are they doing? He pressed his hand on the crystal ball, and the chatting voices of the goblins were heard. My food is almost ready. Where are you from? I'm from Beijing. I'm from Hangzhou. My group member is irresponsible. Could he not have his dinner later? The 4 of us are waiting for him. Time passes fast when playing this game. It's mealtime in the blink of an eye. I spent the entire afternoon helping to remove all the props. I posted on the forum, and they didn't believe that the game has such interactivity. Ha ha ha. I'm not chatting. I'm going offline for my meal. I'll be back in a jiffy. Dark clouds gathered at a very low altitude. Flashes of white-green lightning could be seen occasionally. At Spectre College Training Ground No. 69. After a white magical brilliance of light, 5 goblins whose heads were showing green words teleported in. The 5 goblins looked around, but they were not in a hurry to enter the tower. The training ground was disguised as a desolate battlefield by mana. There were scattered white bones and broken obstructions. All these were just props. They acted quite similar to previous combatants finding the exit the moment they entered, Brainiac commented as he looked at the goblins in the crystal ball. I hope that their performances are better. Keep an eye on the other groups. It's almost time for my class, so I'm leaving, Professor Bacon reminded Brainiac. He drank the bloody chrysanthemum tea, and the tea dripped down as he walked out of the room. Brainiac bowed as Professor Bacon left. Then he sat down and observed the crystal ball. The goblins had given up looking for an exit. They chose the goblin with the short bow as the front scout, and the 4 goblins walked abreast in the second row. They advanced warily into the high tower. The examination rules were amended to cater to the Devil Lord's requests and take care of the goblins. There were 2 graduating students to a group, and they were only allowed to use the lowest-ranking skeleton soldiers. They were being assessed by other examiners on how they controlled a fixed number of skeleton soldiers to defeat the combatants. If they were unable to defeat the goblins, the clichés weren't able to graduate. As the largest and most notable northern spiritual faculty, Spectre College had the most stringent management and academic requirements to guarantee the quality of its students. This was the reason why many students failed to graduate. To Brainiac, these goblins looked skilled and wielded their weapons confidently. But once they encountered the skeleton soldiers, they would break down. What the heck? Brainiac couldn't believe his eyes. The goblins threw stones at the skeleton soldiers out of the blue. Then they hid in a corner as they spoke frantically. Gosh, put away your short bow, will you? Did you see another group of skeletons in front? If you trigger their aggro, how do we deal with 4 skeleton soldiers? That's out of my range. Why are you so scared? Stop talking. Focus your attention. Peasant, go forward and taunt them. Grandsons, how did you taunt them? Why are these skeleton soldiers after me? I've asked already. Are you sure these skeleton soldiers have aggro? But Cranmer heard it. Why wouldn't the skeleton soldiers have it? D***MN. My buttock is hit. Don't panic. It's all right if it's off tank. Don't you have a shield? Whoever the skeleton soldiers attack becomes the tank. Hurry. Brainiac observed that the goblins were panicking when the skeleton soldiers attacked. Soon, they became composed and started attacking the skeleton soldiers. He was surprised the goblins didn't escape and exhibited basic combat skills. After a few minutes, they slashed the skeleton soldiers into a bunch of bounds, and Brainiac started to ponder. The goblins gathered the scattered equipment and placed it in a corner. After that, they continued their advance. Brainiac was puzzled about why the goblins looked so happy. What was wrong with them? Was that goblin not injured? Why did the injured goblin not abandon his comrades and flee? Why were the goblins not afraid of the skeleton soldiers? How did the Devil Lord train the goblins? Why were the goblins smiling? Did they not know that they could die? Brainiac felt these questions were out of his understanding. As a brainiac and a genius, his research covered all the underworld creatures and races, including goblins. The more he researched goblins, the more he discovered that besides their large numbers and fast growth rates, they didn't have any positive points. These creatures were hunted for fun since ancient times, and they were merely grain storage zombies. If they weren't able to speak or have group activities, it would be questionable whether they had intelligence. Brainiac wasn't prejudiced against the goblins, but he didn't like them, and he wasn't curious about them. He wasn't like the ancient creatures who killed goblins for fun. He belonged to the New Age and received New Age education. He didn't have such primitive thinking. The times had changed. However, the vulnerability of goblins hadn't changed. What about these goblins? Brainiac switched the images in the crystal ball in disbelief. He looked in on the other groups of goblins. Besides a group of goblins, who perished against an overwhelming number of skeleton soldiers, the rest of the goblins advanced to the second level. They would keep the skeleton soldiers' equipment as though they were worth a lot of money. These goblins, what on earth was happening? The gamers were fighting with their sweat and blood in the Spectre College, training grounds, instance dungeon for reputation points, equipment, and first-hand tactical intelligence. The evil, greedy, cold-hearted, and cruel Devil Lord Sherlock sat on the chair and gazed at the magic stones card as he counted the numbers happily. More than 10,000 magic stones. After purchasing the dungeon, Sherlock didn't have that much wealth, until now. He was loading Civilization 6 on his computer screen and downloading the annoseries.rar. Red fireballs appeared at the dungeon core, and the letter was spat out from the flames. The letter was clean, and small crimson hearts were drawn on the cover. Sherlock raised an eyebrow. What the heck is this? Sherlock was stunned by the little hearts on the letter. Brew asked, Lord Sherlock, is that your suitor? I didn't know there were such things. Perhaps when I went to the Dungeon Lord Experience sharing conference, someone was smitten by me and obtained my address before sending me this letter. Sherlock smiled as he lifted the letter and tore it open. He took out the contents. Winterfell season discount information. SK3 flagship shop Dawn black box countdown. SK3 shocking discount. Black technology magnetic hand selling for the first time in the underworld. Enjoy 6 months of interest-free installments. Making your face greener and more beautiful. The Don't have the most expensive stuff blacksmith shop's latest discount. Are you fretting over back pain, headaches, and leg cramps? The Don't have the most expensive stuff blacksmith shop is selling the latest massage chair, head mallet, nail board back support, and broken leg pedal. As long as you try it, all your woes will be gone. Purchase now, only $998. Go touring. Are you fretting daily over your job? Come to Go Touring, the largest, hottest, and most dangerous volcano bungee jumping in the underworld. Say farewell to your worries with a jump. Winterfell provides the best season discount information. If you wish to request a refund, please proceed to the Winterfell merchandise section to queue up for the form. After filling out the form, queue up again for processing. The current queue number is 98,548,551. Sherlock held the letter in a daze and remained silent for a long time. TSK, after I was abandoned for 10,000 years, these trash advertisement letters became popular in the underworld again. And the refund process is that troublesome, is that intentional, Bruce said in a jovial tone, but Sherlock did not respond. He was reading a piece of news on the discount pamphlet. Northern Underworld Dungeon Sales Section advertisement. Are you fretting about dungeon core leveling? Troubled about how to spend your money? Come to Northern Underworld Dungeon Sales Section. We'll empty your gold vault in a second. Shocking sale price. If you register now, the original 20 million magic stones dungeon core used for leveling will only cost 19,999,999 magic stones. A discount of 1 magic stone. For more details, please send your inquiry letter to the Dungeon Sales Section. The address is Winterfell, Beyond Expensive District, Paupers Avoid Street, No. 888 Northern Underworld Dungeon Sales Section Winterfell Branch. Sherlock examined it for a while and then sat back as his eyes became dull. He muttered, price increase again. Brew was silent for a while and said with empathy, take it easy Lord Sherlock. Though I'm unable to level up, at least you have your own dungeon. Take a look at those merry goblins. In their other world, they can only afford a toilet after working their entire lives, and they would still owe the bank interest. 5 gamers perished. 500 magic stones will be transferred to your account, won't they? 5 teleport portals appeared outside, and 5 goblins walked out. The gamers outside immediately surrounded them, as they were the gamers who explored the instance dungeon. Since they came back this way, they had perished in the instance dungeon. The others were curious about the difficulty level of the instance dungeon. Sherlock glanced at the excited gamers and sat back in his chair as he picked up the letter and continued reading. Besides the discount information, there was another letter and information pamphlet. For example, the Fialado magical item shop affirmed the latest ancient ruin location and commenced the project to find it. The Merchant Alliance was giving this project priority and employing professionals with high pay and benefits. The Fialado magical item shop. Lord Sherlock, perhaps it was the shop that you sold the ancient ruin key to, Brew asked curiously. That's correct. I saw an opportunity to make a fortune. Sherlock smiled. He saved his Civilization 6 game and shut down the computer. Taking his cloak from the chair and putting it behind him, Sherlock walked towards the teleport portal outside the dungeon core main hall. Brew, activate the system maintenance for an hour. Gang. A black short sword and a huge red axe collided. The goblin, Arthur, who was wearing armor, shifted to his left to dodge the axe. He was unable to parry the energy of an axe swing, so he had to sidestep and divert the axe's energy to his right. An orc skeleton frame was wielding the large axe, and his body was emitting black smoke. The height was 3 times a goblin. Though it didn't have any flesh, with the spectre magic, its strength was on par with a normal orc. Puny mortals, you can't stop us. The world belongs to the Void Legion. The orc skeleton frame opened his mouth and shouted as the huge axe was diverted to the ground. The orc skeleton extended his right hand and grabbed Arthur's neck with accurate estimation of his dodging. The orc skeleton pulled the nimble goblin towards him. At this time, Notweir Inkpants bashed the orc skeleton's thigh bone using his shield. Burning Kister stabbed the orc skeleton's spine using his dagger, but it wasn't effective. A goblin laid by the side, its stomach cut open by the axe. Though the goblin wasn't dead, his intestines were all over the place. Peasant was the mortally wounded goblin on the ground. Sylvanas readied her short sword and shield and waited for a chance to attack. This was the 4th and highest level of the tower. Not far from there was the teleport portal for getting out of the training ground. If the goblins defeated the last skeleton soldier, the 2 graduating lichés would have failed the examination. On a tall viewing platform, 2 lichés were observing the fighting. The skeleton soldiers of one of the lichés were all defeated. The other lich had the last elite skeleton soldier. Though he fatally wounded the goblin, the other 4 goblins still had strong combat power. For goblins, they were too strong. They weren't only strong in combat, but they were also strong-willed. The goblin whose belly was cut open and whose intestines were all over the place said happily, "Buck up, he's going down. Make haste, I'm going for my meal. My mum's going to nag at me." If the examination rules didn't exclude the 2 lichés from communicating with the goblins, they would grab hold of the dying goblin and ask, "Bro, your stomach is in bad shape. How is your mum going to let you eat?"